In Israel, there's a law that if you could have saved someone and you didn't, then you could be prosecuted for that. In Israel, I don't believe it's a law in America, even though the Good Samaritan law in America, if you see a house on fire and then you kick the door down in order to put out the fire, you can't be sued for breaking the door while you were trying to save the house. That's the Good Samaritan law. But in Israel, it takes it further. In Israel, if you could have saved someone and you didn't, then you're held accountable, right? So again, this becomes very complicated. But I think that when it comes to yourself judging other people, when we recognize that a person is actually their soul more than it is their body, their godly soul more than it is their animal soul, it becomes easier for us to focus on the good within them, which is essential, versus focusing on the bad, which is really tangential. And when we try to understand their motivation of why they're cutting me off or why they're driving in the shoulder, it's easier to ascribe to attribute the motivation to their true self. Maybe there is a positive intention versus to their shallow self, which is their negative, their animal soul. And when we find their moral failings, we can say maybe that is happenstance or the result of an unpleasant nurture, or maybe the result of a very aggressive animal soul, the likes of which I would never be able to handle. And with that mindset, we can look at things in a very beautiful light, seeing the bigger picture of humanity. Yes, Nancy?
There is evil in the world. And can we recognize it?
Right, so this is a very interesting point. So you're saying, so you're saying, so Rabbi, so what about the Hamas terrorist, right? So what are you going to say? Well, maybe he had a rough childhood. That's not easy to do that, right? Maybe that ties into Phyllis's question, really, which is when you see evil, you got to take action, right? I think my personal opinion is when it comes to defending yourself from harm and then defending others from harm, I think you have to take action. And as Jews, I think we've learned too many times that that's why I was acquitted, exactly. But I think as Jews, we've learned too many times that we can't rely on others. We can't subcontract our defense to other armies or countries or nations or international guarantees, which have disappointed us far, far too many times. Yes, Amy.
Like the difference between explaining behavior versus excusing behavior.
Explaining behavior versus excusing behavior. Right. Interesting.
I understand. There's a reason why this person did this kind of thing, but it doesn't. And I'll try to understand that, but it doesn't
make it right.
It doesn't excuse the fact that behavior happened.
Right. Right. So that we'll do next week is about how you can influence other people to actually become better people. But today we're talking about yourself. Why you need to carry this darkness in your own heart. You don't need to. You can actually walk around with an enlightened view of humanity in a very beautiful way, right? And therefore, by the way, I want to just conclude by saying that aligning with our godly soul makes all of this much, much easier. Because when we are conscious and self-aware of our own truth, of our own godly soul, it's much easier to find the godly soul within another person. And that's why being more soul conscious is actually beneficial for our relationships. I'd like to just conclude with the closing point, and that is, you were going to say something, Charlotte? Oh, I thought you were saying something. I'm sorry. I just want to conclude I want to conclude with a quick story here of I believe it was the previous Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, when he was a young boy. He asked his father, the Rebbe Rashab, this would be the 6th Chabad Rebbe, asking his father, the 5th Chabad Rebbe, when he was a little boy, why is it that God created us with 2 eyes and 1 mouth? Why would God have done that? Why are we seeing twice and speaking only once? Like, why is that? So his father answered him that the right eye is for seeing other people, and the left eye is for toys and games. So it's a child, right? What did he mean by that? The Hasidim understood that to mean that the right is associated with kindness, with the benefit of the doubt, and the left is associated with the attribute of gevura, which is discipline, or strictness, which is more judgment. When you look at another person, you're supposed to use your right eye. You're supposed to give them the benefit of the doubt, with kindness, with positivity bias. Let's see the positive. But when it comes to your own toys and games, when it comes to your Mercedes and your BMW, when it comes to your physical possessions, that's where you could be a little more strict and say, yeah, what do I need this for? What do I need this and that and the other? It's okay, I can handle with one or two. You don't have to be so overindulgent on the physical. And that's why the left eye, you look at your physical material assets, and the right eye, you're supposed to look at your fellow people, your spirituality.